Hey guys, welcome to the love of books, movies, and happiness. My name's April, and today we're doing a very popular series, book review, which is The Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas. Hopefully I'm saying that right. So we're starting with the first book, Throne of Glass. Sorry, I had to get a water break there. And Throne of Glass is the first book. There is a prequel to the series, which is The Assassin's Blade. It gives you an introduction to the main character and gives you the backstory slightly on her, at least to events that lead up to the start of the Throne of Glass. So I'll start with Assassin's Blade, then we'll cover the Throne of Glass, and we'll go from there. Alright, so Assassin's Blade is a series of 3 to 5 short stories, all designed to introduce this assassin, which I'm going to make sure I'm saying her name as close as I can to being right. Selena Sardothian. I think that's how you say it. Or Sardothian. Is this really well-known assassin. Well, no one knows that this famous assassin everyone's afraid of at the time of Assassin's Blade is 15 or 16, so she's a teenager. But she's been raised as an assassin. And her master teacher is someone who he found her parents were killed and he found her. And he took her in and taught her how to be this famous assassin where everyone knows that she's his protege and is doing this amazing job and hardly ever fails and just creates fear everywhere she goes. So in the short stories, you get the story of the assassin and the pirate, and then you get the assassin and the healer, and there's a couple others mixed in. For the assassin and the pirate, we find out she gets sent with another one of his apprentices, Sam, to go negotiate a contract. Well, she finds out that it's going to be the negotiated contract for slaves, which she's not a fan of. She's really not. So instead of negotiating the contract they're supposed to, she ends up, with Sam's help, setting the slaves free, 200 of them. And of course, when she gets back, there's trouble. She gets punished for her part in everything. Sam gets punished. And you find out that her and Sam have a bit of a relationship starting. Well, in the next story, she's being sent to the desert to go train with desert assassins. It's like the group of the silent assassins or something like that, but they're known for being really good, really deadly, and really hard to train with. And she has to be there until she gets a letter from the instructor and brings back proof that she was willing to do this. She ends up on the way there meeting a healer. Well, a girl who wants to be a healer, but she ended up just becoming a barmaid instead, and she's kind of stuck in that right now. Well, of course, there's trouble, as I've already learned with the first chapter of Selena. There's trouble wherever she goes. But something in the girl touches her. In this world, magic has been banished for some years now. And the barmaid has a talent for healing. She just needs to learn how to utilize it properly. So before Selena leaves, she teaches the girl some way of defending herself because she has some trouble with guys. And then leaves her the money to go get away from being a barmaid and go make her own fortune as she will. Before finally joining the Desert Assassins. We then follow her as she starts her training with the Desert Assassins and has some adventures before running into some trouble. Of course, trouble finds her. But she finds out that with the silent assassins, things aren't what she's used to. You know, the guy in charge there is very different from the one that raised her, and she finds out that there could be a different way. But it's Sam that pulls her back. She had an offer to stay in the desert with them, but it was Sam that just pulled her back. To go check on him, see how he's doing, and then go from there. So then, as we're going along, next adventure, her and Sam connect and form a relationship. And when she leaves the desert assassins, the guy there gives her enough money to buy her freedom from her master. And so she does. And she gets her own place away from him. And her and Sam end up moving in together, and they're trying to figure out what to do. You know, do we leave and go to a different country? Do we stick with this guy? What do we do? But her master gets jealous, and she ends up getting a job offer that she's not entirely sure about, but if they succeed at it, her and Sam, then that's enough money for them to take a ship and leave. So they take it. Unfortunately, Sam gets killed, and when Sam gets killed, she kind of loses her mind and goes after the people that did it, to only get caught and arrested. She manages to kill someone in the process, but she didn't get all the targets. So we end the Assassin's Blade with her getting sent to this work prison. Think of the old prison camps from like 30s, I don't know, 20s, 30s, whenever, when like they broke, you know, they were mining, but they were prisoners. It was something like that. Yeah, she's sent to this mining camp where she's there for like a year. You know, she's mistreated, they're abused, they don't have rights. Most people don't survive, but they're under orders to make her survive as long as possible. After a year of being there is when the Throne of Glass begins. In the Throne of Glass, she's made an offer. Crown Prince and Captain of the Guards, which is also the Crown Prince's friend, show up. The king is having a competition, and for a new king's champion, which would be his own personal assassin, who can only take the contracts that he offers to go deal with any kingdom issues. But to get this contract, she has to pass a series of tests against everyone else and prove her worth. Which, she agrees to it. The idea of getting out of the prison camp and doing this, it's better than being stuck in the prison camp. For all that she doesn't like the prince or his family right now. So she agrees. Well, this is where we meet Dorian, which is the Crown Prince, and then you have Chael, which is the Captain of the Guards. Dorian won't have much to do with her when she's in this competition. It's mostly going to be Chael who's helping train her and keep an eye on her and just make sure that she's doing what she's supposed to. But of course, Selena being Selena, trouble continues to follow her. During this competition, we have competitors who are going missing and ending up dead. You have a princess from another country, country, that the king is working on trying to take advantage of and has mostly taken over. And now there's like the princess left, and he's hoping that she can be used to get those people to come to terms with being taken over, pretty much. But she ends up becoming friends with Selena. Only, there's trouble. Let's see here if I can remember her name. Alright, so. I forgot her name now, but it's Nehema, something like that. They become good friends to the point that, they're seen talking to each other, because Selena has by now, while she was at the prison camp, learned the girl's language. So she's learned the more common language, but she's learned the language. And it's something that the prince and his people don't speak. So her and the girl can communicate. They become good friends. And this girl is secretly trying to rebel against the king. She's there to get as much information as possible, all with the goal of overthrowing the king. Only they find out that not only, even though magic is banished, he's using a form of magic, or at least someone is. And it's concerning because the form of magic they're using is a deadly form that can pull these evil beasts forward that can kill you, and no one knows why. So Selena's fighting on two realms at some points. I do recommend Throne of Glass. It's not your typical fantasy story, but it is at the same time. Like it's your typical fantasy story in the fact that you have you've got your one person that's the savior of this world, and you've got your magical creatures and magic in it, and then you got your romance that's possibly there, possibly not. But I say it's not your typical at the same time, because the character is not like the village good girl who's been pulled into all these crimes or anything. She's a 16, 17-year-old who's been raised to kill. So she's a morally gray personality who some of the kills bother her, but at the same time, it's how she was raised and it's how she's made her living. We do find out through the first book that she is aware of her past in a sense that she's hiding something. But we don't really find out what she's hiding right away. Just that there's something she's hiding. During this competition, she does form the beginnings of a relationship with Dorian. But at the same time, she's still flirting with Chael. So throughout book one, you're kind of intrigued by her attitude because you're wondering what's really going on here. But for the Assassin's Blade, I give that a 4.9 out of 5 stars. That's really short. Gives you a brief glimpse into who she is, and you can kind of approve of most of her personality. My only issue with Assassin's Blade is the fact that this author introduced Sam only to have him killed within a few short stories. Now, that's my thing. Don't introduce a character just to kill him off a story later. For Throne of Glass, I give it a 4.7 out of 5 stars. It's exciting. It's fast-paced. There is a lot going on in Throne of Glass. Like, a lot. And then that's normally not an issue. But it's a lot to keep track of. because I feel like the author was trying to introduce all of the subplots at once, which she does, and it works, but at the same time, you're just kind of sitting there going, okay, you've got this competition, and then you've also got this magic going on, and you've got someone using these beasts, and you've got her talking to this ancient goddess that's sometimes around and sometimes not. And then you got the question of the romance of, is she with Dorian? Is she with Chael? What's going on? You almost have to focus on one plot and then come back to the others. So I don't give it a full 5 stars just because of that. Then we have book 2. Which, book 2 is Crown of Midnight. And if you have not finished 1 or read 1, I would stop here. Just like, subscribe, follow, and then come back to this video when you're ready for book 2. Otherwise, keep watching, and we'll just go right into book 2, and I'll give you what's going on with book 2 as much as I can without completely ruining it. So, book 2, Crown of Midnight. Selena has won the competition and is now the king's assassin. Things have changed relationship-wise. She's no longer in a relationship with Dorian, although they're still talking and still friends. But things have changed. And now she has a dilemma on her hands. She's signed a contract with the king, and she's given a list of people that she needs to kill and then bring proof back. So, she has this role that she plays where she's this, I don't care, I'm just excited to kill people attitude that she gives off. And she brings back proof each time of the people that she's supposedly killed for whatever reason the king deems necessary. Well, we find out that that's not exactly what she's doing. Depending on the reason for why the king wants them dead, if they wake up before she can kill them, she gives them a choice. And then goes to a local medical school that always has bodies, finds the one that will most similarly match what she needs, and then goes from there. Only now the king gives her a new contract, saying that he's gotten word of a conspiracy against him, and he wants these people on the contract found and killed, and then he'll give her the next one after the first one's killed. And one of the names that she's given is the name of a friend from when she was younger, named Archer. Which, this takes her into a whole new situation. Because now she's dealing with a potential conspiracy, and she's trying to figure out how to not kill him, but make it look like she's killed him. Plus get the info she needs to warn anyone else that's in danger that they're in danger. Along with that, the rebellion is forming. The rebellion is forming, and along with it forming, actually, it isn't forming, it is formed. Okay, that's the 3rd book. Sorry, just making sure I had the right one here. This is one, by the way. But it's not the rebellion is forming, it's already formed. It's more that the rebellion is getting more active. So we have her trying to follow her contract without actually harming people. And she gets involved in the rebellion, and in the process pulls Chael into it, and it ends up pulling Dorian into it, because Dorian has his own drama going on. And within this, we have the death of a loved character. One of her friends ends up dying or getting killed from the rebellion, and she ends up going after the people that killed her and presenting them to the king as, here's the people that killed her in case anyone says that you organized it, that kind of thing. But it's a very more action-packed story than the other one was. I will admit, Throne of Glass had a lot to it, but the main story was still there. Crown of Midnight has a lot more to it, and it's like the story is starting to splinter in the different directions. You know, you still have Celaena's part of it, but then you also have what's going on with Dorian. You've got stuff going on with Chael. You've got stuff going on with Nehemia. And I'm sure I'm saying her name wrong, so I apologize. You have all this going on in one book. And it's something I've read it once. Normally I'm good, but I'm going to read it again before I return it, just so I make sure I have the plot line fully formed in my head. And for this one, I also give it a 4.8 out of 5 stars. Celaena has matured. She's kind of had to. She's got some bravery issues where she's still a bit of a coward in some situations. But you can't blame her. She's like 17, 18, you know? She's dealing with a lot, and she's not sure she wants to, and I fully understand that from her viewpoint. But she's not really given a choice either. There is very little spice in these so far. Like, they're there, but they're not. You know, the romance is very minimal. And it's just more watching this character grow from the arrogance of a teenager to she's gone through some stuff and she's a little more mature, but honestly, she isn't given time to process everything that happened to her. So she is still dealing with all of that. The end of book 2, she gets sent to another kingdom that the king is trying to take over. Her main goal is to take out the royal family to make it easier for him to take over. But we find out that when she goes there, well, she's got relatives there. This is where we find out more of her past. So, we are now getting into the Heir of Fire, which is book 3 in the Throne of Glass series. So again, if you have not read book 3 and you've only done 1 and 2, I would stop now. Otherwise, let's get into 3. Alright guys, let me just raise you up just a little bit here, because I wanted to go up. There we go. I'm kind of cutting you off, or myself off. There we go. So book 3, Heir of Fire. So the action has definitely picked up, and Celaena is going through a lot. This book, we're going to kind of bounce. We bounce between Celaena and what's going on with her, and then we bounce to Chael and Dorian and what's going on with them. And this is where it really starts to get complicated. So we find out, the end of book 2, we found out that Celaena had another form, and that she's been hiding herself as human this whole time. She's what's called a fae. It's almost like a darker fairy. So it's more, it's not light-hearted, giggly, wears dresses and flowers in their hair fairy. For those not familiar with the term fae, these are more of the scarier, pointy ears, a little more arrogant, more dangerous, pointy teeth fae. You have dark ones, you have light ones. Some that are a little bit more of a peace-loving, gentler breed, and then you have the ones that are more aggressive, fierce fighters, deadly, you know. So it's found out that Celaena is really a fae. And before she leaves, she gives Chael a date. And tells him that when he figures out the date, he'll figure her out. It takes him a bit. But he finally realizes that the date is the date when the High Lord and Queen of a country was killed, and their family was destroyed, and the youngest daughter was missing, never to be found. Well, he puts two and two together and realizes that Selena is the daughter, and her name then was Eowyn. Meanwhile, Eowyn, as we now know her, is meeting her aunt, who wants her to learn how to be Fae before she'll answer her questions. So this is where we meet a new person in the story. Let me just... Let me find his name, because I unfortunately forgot his name. Rowan. There we go. Sorry, I had to look for a minute. She gets to this new country where her aunt is. She sees the kingdom that she's supposed to be infiltrating and killing the people of, and she kind of scopes it out and recognizes that she ain't gonna, even her skills aren't gonna do it in the time frame she was given. So that ain't gonna happen. So she decides to figure out how to get to her Aunt Maeve and see if her aunt can help her. Well, Rowan, her aunt's kind of like a second in command, but not really second in command. But he's a Fae who is blood sworn to her aunt and has agreed to serve her. He's there to escort her to her aunt. So they get there, and she gets told that in order to get the answers that she wants, which is how to stop the king and these creatures that he's using, Rowan has to train her, and she has to learn how to be a Fae first. Obviously, she's not thrilled on that, and honestly, neither is he. But they agree. He doesn't have a choice, but she agrees. So we follow her as she starts learning. And he's not a kind trainer in any sense of the word. You know, he's a very fierce and forceful task person, so he's very like, you need to do this, and if you can't do this, then you get dishes duty for this long. Or you need to do this, and if you can't do this, then you have to go clean this. You know, it's very stuff like that. There's some stuff where he threatens her with something, and it triggers her a bit. At one point, because she's not doing what he wants, he threatens to have her whipped, and she loses it. At another point, he's trying to get her to show her Fae form, and she can't seem to do it. And he says something that sets her off, and she attacks him. So it's not an easy relationship by any means between them. Well, meanwhile, we switch over to Dorian and Chael. Dorian's found out that he has magic. Kind of puts him in danger because it's uncontrolled. He doesn't know how to use it. He's never been trained with it. Chael is trying to find out what's going on with the conspiracy and protect her and Dorian, even though Dorian doesn't believe that. So he gets caught up in his own adventures. He's also made a deal with his father where he'll come back to his father's estate and take over as the son in charge if his father helped him get Selena sent out of the country. So he's dealing with that as well. So throughout this third book, it gets interesting because you have the subplot of what's going on with them, and then you've got what's going on with Selena, and you're following the three plots essentially together. So for the third book, I also give it a 4.8 out of 5 stars. You definitely see towards the end of the book a stronger Selena form. I know I gave her earlier name, but I still think of her as Selena. That's who she is. You know, she kind of is forced to face some of the trauma she's dealt with, and she's forced to figure out how to overcome some of it. So you get a stronger Selena. You see a friendship forming between her and Rowan, and she learns how to be around others a little bit. But we have another character who doesn't make sense at the moment, mixed in, which is the witches. And they started out, these witches, one of the high people in charge, or the grandmother or something of one of them, was at a carnival, and something happened where Selena ended up killing her. And that's our first glimpse of her, and then we find out the rest of the clan is being utilized by the king. They have to learn how to fly these creatures that he's made so that they can help conquer other countries, and then they'll be allowed to be in charge, essentially. So then amongst all the other subplots, you then have the drama with these witches going on. So you have the conspiracies, you have Selena training and learning how to be a fae, you've got Dorian and what's happening with his magic, you've got Chael and what's happening with his friendship with Dorian and his father, then you have the witches themselves and what's happening with them. And honestly, right now, it's just trying to see how they're all going to weave together into one plot. I'm not sure yet. But somehow it should. I hope. I've been assured it does, so we'll see. I will say, so far, from the Assassin's Blade all the way to the Heir of Fire, it's a very action-packed story. It's a fairly arrogant character who has been learning how to change that arrogance. You know, she's learned how to adjust her arrogance so it's not so much arrogance. And she's learning that she's not the best of the best, but she's forming into something more. And it does leave me curious to see where we go from there. Alright guys, if you enjoyed this review of the Assassin's Blade to the Heir of Fire, first 3 to 4 books in the Throne of Glass series, then by all means keep an eye out for the next one when I do the next book in the series, which will be a couple weeks. Till next time guys, keep reading.